This is my game, Flip, and in this video I will show you how to play it. Here are the rules laid out in front of you, and to start I'm going to read the first three. Rule number 1. The object of the game is to fill all the blank spaces in the least number of turns, or flips, possible. Rule number 2. A flip is defined as selecting various components of spaces you have already filled and reflecting them across an adjacent axis, vertically or horizontally, not diagonally, so that the new shape falls within the bounds of the grid. Rule number 3. An acceptable solution to a level constitutes the minimum number of moves required. Multiple correct solutions may exist for the same level. So it's like golf. Less moves equals more better. Now that you're properly confused and hopefully intrigued, I'll illustrate to either provide clarity or render you more confused than before, preferably the former. To demonstrate, I have my handy-dandy dry erase graph board that I borrowed from my school for an undisclosed amount of time. And I'm doing this upside down, so if I get my rights and left to backwards, please bear with me as I stutter as well. And follow my actions, not my words. I'm going to start with a 2x2 tutorial level. So here we go. You have a grid, or for math people, a matrix even. And you always start with a point and a number on top of it. The number represents how many moves it should take to complete the level. So this is a simple 2x2 grid, and so we take our rules that we learned. I'm going to take this dot and I can flip it two ways because there's two axes. I can go this way for horizontal or this way for vertical. I'm going to choose the latter and flip it right there. So I flip my dot over that adjacent axis and I got a new shape. Now I doubled the original area of my first shape. And now so once I have that new shape, I can take any of the components that I want to from that shape. And in this case, well, I've already used one move, so I'm going to tally that over there. I'm going to flip both of them to the left, and voila! You've filled all the blank spaces in two moves, and the tutorial level is complete. Pretty easy so far, right? So now that you've completed it, I'm going to throw another rule at you. Rule number 4. A legal shape is defined as one inside the grid in which every block is contiguous to at least one side of another. Vertices do not count. If an illegal shape is made, the rules have been violated and the solution is invalid. Okay, so whatever that means. I'm going to demonstrate so we can understand better. Take a 4x4 grid, and all I'm going to do is give you examples of legal shapes. Let's say I have this dot, legal shape. It's only one dot. It has all of its sides adjacent. Two dots, sorry. This is also a legal shape because as you can see the two sides are touching. So what about this one? That would not be a legal shape because although these two sides are touching, that one's only connected by a vertice. But if I fill this dot in right here, that makes a legal shape. Got an L shape, almost a Tetris block. This shape is not legal, but if I fill in these four across the top, that does make it a legal shape. So if you look at it, all the sides, even though these are touching, these vertices are touching, all the dots, which mean filled spaces, have at least one side touching another adjacent side in the shape. So now that we have an understanding of legal shapes, I'll demonstrate some moves that you can make on a 4x4 grid. And remember, you can always choose which components of your shape to flip as long as you use a correct axis and your move fills only blank spaces in the grid. So now let's see, I'll do some little quick demonstrations. Make another 4x4 grid. Say I start off with this dot. So like the tutorial level, I'm just going to flip one first because it's really only your only option, and I could have gone for one of 4 ways with that for the 4 adjacent axes. Now that I have these two, I'm going to take them and flip them right there. So you have that kind of shape. And I'm going to double my shape once more, staying within the bounds of the grid. So I have 8 spaces filled in and 3 moves. And for math people, the number of spaces that you can possibly fill is 2 to the n. And obviously, double your shape every time. And now I'm going to do an interesting and peculiar move that would seem to you so far. I'm going to take these 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm going to fill in, I suppose, the border of this 4x4 grid and make that shape, leaving these two blank in the middle. Now, you may be wondering about the purpose of ever leaving blank spaces because the point of the game is obviously to fill up all the spaces, right? So to answer your unspoken question, it's because obstacles referred to as negative space exist in the game. And this is really the point of the game, is to overcome these obstacles in negative space. So now I'm going to read Rule 5. The negative, or empty and not blank, because that's a key distinction. So this is an empty space right now. See these blank ones? But negative space is not just because you try to fill the blank, but empty space is different. So keep that in mind. The negative spaces cannot be manipulated in any way. A filled space cannot be flipped onto them, and they cannot be used to fill the blank spaces. So I like to denote my negative spaces with an X because it seems to say you cannot move here. So I'm going to draw a couple grids that are actually going to be the exact same thing once you account for the negative space. So what I'll do, I'm going to go stick with a 4x4 here. Do this. So keep that shape in mind. You have 4, 3, 3, and 4. These two shapes are the exact same level, just with different representations of the negative space. And I generally choose to draw my rectangular grids first and then fill in with the X's because that's easier when you're making levels. But if you really like to draw things like that, go for it. So for any of you that are interested and feel up to the challenge, if I put a dot right there as my starting point, this level would take 4 moves to complete. Okay, moving on. The last rule. Rule number 6. A blank space can only be filled once, so after it's filled, it cannot be flipped onto again. However, filled spaces can be flipped into as many different blank spaces as possible, barring violation of the above rules. And now you know how to play Flip. There are various ways to play, and you can create levels and challenge your friends to solve them. If you want a more direct method of competition, set a time limit, say, I don't know, 3 minutes, and you and a friend each make a level. When time is up, swap levels, and the first person to solve the others is the winner. I hope to turn Flip into an app once I get the funds and the proper software to do so. And so right now I'm currently working on a book that I can maybe turn into a book of puzzles a la Sudoku and something. But don't forget, the most important rule is have fun. So rule number 7, happy flipping.